right, hello everyone. I'm Kelsey checking in here. I'm a massage therapist here at Bamboo, and today I'm highlighting a service that's both quick and easy and super effective that I use a lot in my practice, both on my clients and also in my personal life. And that is vagal nerve stimulation. So a lot of you might have tried it, but today we're going to be just kind of highlighting it and explaining the actual science or mechanisms behind the actual service that we perform here. So our vagus nerve is our 10th cranial nerve. So we have 12 pairs of cranial nerve, and our vagus nerve is our 10th one. It comes out right at the brainstem, and it performs all sorts of different functions. And that is because it is connected to all sorts of different other organs. It is quite literally our brain-body connection. So it performs digestion because it is connecting the brain to the gut. If you've ever heard, that's probably the biggest, most popular connection of the vagus nerve. If you've ever heard of the gut-brain axis, that is legitimately the vagus nerve. Also controls heart rate, connects to the heart, to the brain. Breathing connects the brain to the lungs. Immune responses, it can connect the brain to the liver and other organs that are involved in immune responses like the spleen and other things. Mood regulations, adrenals, and other things also control our mood, kind of in the gut as well. Mucus and saliva production, skin and muscle sensations, speech due to its connection with the pharynx and the larynx, taste due to its connection to the tongue and taste buds, urine output due to its connection to the kidney, and also some reflexes such as sneezing, coughing, swallowing, sweating. All of these would be kind of involuntary reflexes or actions. So it can perform all of these functions, which is great. However, how well each of these functions are performed is due to what is called the tone of the vagal nerve. So just as our muscles can have tone, our vagus nerve can also have a tone, which is simply put a measurement of the activity of the vagus nerve. So let's think about this. If we had poor tone of a muscle, that's probably meaning we are weak or we couldn't perform all the daily activities that we normally once have. And if we have poor vagal nerve tone, that means our nervous system is stuck in that sympathetic response, which we're going to go over a little bit more about. But that also in turn means all of these functions are decreased. So you'd have decreased digestion, maybe an increase in your heart rate that is on that stress mode, maybe breathing is impaired, or immune responses, you get sick a lot, all sorts of different things. It could even mean that you sweat a lot. That could be related to the vagus nerve and its tone. On the opposite end of that though, if we have a good tone of our vagal nerve, that means our nervous system is likely in our parasympathetic mode. Which means all of these functions are going to be performed very easily and very efficiently. So efficient digestion, better mood is a huge one. Breathing is also a pretty big one. You could have an even improved taste. Okay, so let's circle back around to what exactly it means to be in parasympathetic mode versus sympathetic mode. So our nervous system obviously has kind of this gauge here that it can either lie in that sympathetic mode or pop over to parasympathetic mode. Let's start with our parasympathetic mode. This would be our rest, digest, and breathe mode. So this is going to be where our body is most efficiently knowing that it can heal itself, it bounces back, it returns back to what's called homeostasis. Versus sympathetic mode, this is going to be our fight, flight, and freeze mode. So this is our defense mechanism. This is our stress mode, and all of the sorts of things that you would associate with that. So a fun statistic that I like to point out here is that common doesn't always mean normal. So most commonly, we are probably stuck in our sympathetic mode, which again is our fight, flight, and freeze mode, for about 70% of our day. They are saying normal or baseline, where we are at homeostasis, we should be spending 70% of our day in parasympathetic mode, which would be our rest, digest, and breathe mode. So, as you can see here, common does not always mean normal. And that there can affect the tone of our vagal nerve. So we've come back to tone here. So again, if we have poor tone, if we had a poor tone of a muscle, we would not be able to lift up heavy objects. We would not be able to perform all of the daily activities that we once did. If we have poor vagal tone, our sympathetic nervous system is saying, let's go, my time to shine. However, that is our fight, flight, and freeze mode, which in turn, if we are fighting, flighting, or freezing, all of these functions are also on that mode. Freeze mode, poor digestion, heart rate, all the stuff that we talked about is impaired, which, if we keep going, is going to impair our connections. So let's think of this as a highway from the brain to the body. And if we're stuck in this sympathetic mode where we're on freeze, we've got a traffic block in this highway. So now every communication from the brain to the body cannot really make it there. It's piled up and piled up and piled up and piled up. So now we're not digesting, our heart rate is impaired, all of these things have a lost connection. Which, if we go one step further, that is a mind-body dissociation. That is a lost connection from our mind to our body. On the contrary to that, if we are in good vagal tone, if our measurement of activity of our vagal tone is good or normal, our nervous system is saying, yes, let's go to parasympathetic mode. Let's switch this over to here, which is our rest, digest, and breathe mode. So if we're resting, digesting, and breathing, all of these functions are improved rather than impaired, meaning all of these connections are improved rather than impaired. So if we think about this, that would be like taking away that roadblock, that traffic block, and actually saying, you know what, instead, let's add a whole nother lane to each side of this highway so more things can travel. More communication is happening. More awareness is happening from the brain to the body. If we have an increased amount of awareness, it's likely that we hear our body's whispers. So then our body doesn't have to scream, which would mean we can feel when we're starting to get a little bit of that cold, and now we can do something about it. We can bring in, maybe it's a supplement, maybe it's a day off, maybe it's a walk outside in fresh air, maybe it's grounding, breath work, whatever it is, we can bring that in. However, if these connections, if this highway has multiple traffic blocks, we're not hearing any of those communications, we're not hearing those whispers, so then our body has to scream. And we get serious ailments, such as it could be anything from a very bad digestion, IBS, or it could be depression, it could be a loss of speech. If we think about even a specific ailment such as COVID, that would be a scream that our body had and we weren't able to hear that. And what happened with COVID is people lost their taste. So that's just kind of one connection. That's a very specific one, but there are multiple other ailments out there that you could relate back to each one of these functions and say, okay, I realize now that because of that ailment, there was a roadblock here, which impaired the connection, which impaired the function of the vagal nerve. So to me, the vagus nerve stimulation is a very root cause or preventative measure even, that a lot of people can benefit from. So let's talk about ways that we can tonify our vagus nerve. So we can't necessarily lift weights like we can our muscle to tonify our vagus nerve, right? So there's got to be a way that we can. And the top ways are definitely our vagal nerve stimulation. There are studies out there showing that this improves the vagal tone by 56%, which is probably leading. So this is our vagal nerve stimulation device. So what this does is it connects right onto the left earlobe, or it can be even on the right side as well, depending on some ailments and stuff like that. And then this is the grounding patch that goes right on the inside of the wrist, or we can place it right at the end of the vagus nerve, which would be near the abdomen. This device will run for 10 minutes. Sometimes we can titrate up to that 10 minutes with clients, and sometimes the clients are even able to go longer than that. We can work up to maybe a 15-minute session as well. But like I said, this is probably the most effective way to increase the tone of your vagal nerve, which in turn can increase all of these functions as well. Another great one is breath work. Breath work is so powerful and so oversought. It's something super easy you can take with you anywhere you go. If you're on a plane, you can do breath work. If you're sitting at home, you can do breath work. If you come into our 24-hour wellness center, you can do breath work. It's something you can take anywhere you go, and it is very effective in the vagal tone as well. And then another one I want to point out is just massage. So there's actually studies out there that have shown that massage increases the vagal tone by 10%, which, yes, is not as great as 56%, but just knowing that statistic is great, which is why I pair a lot of my vagal nerve treatments with a massage. So we might start with vagal nerve stimulation, and then we will go into massage and do a 60-minute massage or whatever it may be. And really quick, I do also want to point out that on the contrary to benefiting or tonifying the vagus nerve, we can also use a certain device that does the opposite of tonifying. So that would make your tone a more poor tone or weaker tone. And that is a TENS unit. Very popular device. It's used a lot in all sorts of different practices or reasons, or even at home. However, there are studies showing that it decreases the vagal tone by 31%. So I definitely don't encourage people to use the TENS unit in terms of increasing your vagal tone or taking stress away from the nervous system as well. So if you'd like to book any services or the vagus nerve stimulation with us, please contact us in any way. You can call, text, or email. You can also hit up our online booking in the link in our bio, and we will see you soon. Thanks, guys.